Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Tanya and I love to read. My favorite genres being dark fantasy romance and dark romance. However, I'm branching out into reading more genres this year. That was one of my reading goals for this year, and I can proudly say that I have been keeping up with that goal. I also do enjoy the occasional thriller, and there is nothing I'd rather be doing than sitting here and yapping with all of you about my books. So today's video, as you guessed from the title, is going to be my January wrap up. I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read and loved in the month of January. And I know this has been a long time coming, but I'm finally sitting down to film this right now. I really wanted to get this up before February ended. I did read a total of 7 books in the month of January. Considering my goal for the year is about 100 books, I wanted to read many more. 7 was all that I could manage for last month, but that's okay because we did end up reading quite a wide variety of genres, and I'm happy. I'm happy that I got through so many of my books. What I loved the most about my last month's reading wrap up was that it had books from various types of genres. Like I had sci-fi in there, I had a fantasy in there, a dark fantasy in there, I had dark romance in there, we had a thriller in there. So all in all, I think it was a great month, and I'm hoping that sets the trend for the coming year, and I'm hoping all my months turn out to be as good as January was in terms of reading. So without further ado, let's start talking about the books that I read in the month of January. Okay, so the first book that we're going to be talking about today is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was my first book of the year 2026. It was my first ever Taylor Jenkins Reid as well. As I said, new genres, and I'm loving it. I really enjoyed this book. The writing of this book was amazing. The scenes flowed into one another so seamlessly, and after a point of time, I forgot I was even reading. I felt in my head, it felt like I was literally listening to a story someone was telling me, which is amazing. That rarely happens with me, and I really enjoyed this book. This book is a historical fiction novel, and as I said, I don't read a lot of books in this genre. This is probably one of my, I think, first 3-4 books that I've picked up in this genre, and I loved it. I gave this a 4 stars, and I really enjoyed myself while reading this. This story is about this iconic, glamorous Hollywood star called Evelyn Hugo, and when she grows old, she meets this reporter called Monique Grant, and she wants to tell her life story through this reporter, from her rise from poverty to stardom, through her 7 different marriages, and how she lived with one of the most gut-wrenching secrets. The twists in this book were extremely shocking, and I feel like all of this made it a very memorable read for me. As I said, TJR's writing felt so realistic, and it really elevated my reading experience so much. I think this was the perfect book that I could pick to start my new year off with. It really got me into the flow of reading, and I finished this also very quickly. I think I took about 2 to 3 days to finish this book, which is amazing. As I said, I usually would not pick up a book from this genre, but I've heard so many people talking about this, and so many people had loved it, and I anyway had to pick up a TBR. So I was like, let me start with this one and see where it goes, and I can confirm that I will definitely be reading more of this author. Okay, so the next book that I'm going to be talking about is none other than Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I finally picked this series up last month, and I feel like it's all thanks to my friend, because otherwise I never would have picked it up alone. I remember I introduced my dad to the series and he loved it, and I've been hearing a lot of people talk about this one, and I bought it last year and it was just sitting on my shelf, and I'm so glad I finally picked it up because this was amazing. So Red Rising is a dystopian science fiction novel, and it is the first book in the series called Red Rising. It has 2 trilogies. So there's an original trilogy which includes Red Rising, Golden Sun, and Morning Star, and it's followed by another trilogy which follows a time jump. So Red Rising is set in the future on Mars, specifically in an underground mining colony in Mars called Lycos. It follows a 16-year-old boy called Darrow. He's a miner in the dystopian colonized Mars. The society is divided into a hierarchical, color-coded structure, with reds being the lowest born and the golds being like the elite ruling class. So Darrow finds out that along with his colony, several other colonies have been living a lie, and along with the help of the resistance, he undergoes this transformative journey to infiltrate and take vengeance on the elite gold ruling class. So that is what this book is about, and it doesn't even cover like 1/4 of what happened in this book. There is so much to unpack in this book. Initially, when I read it, obviously, as is normal of any fantasy or a sci-fi book, it takes a little bit of time to get into the world. So, first few days, I was a little bit confused because there are a lot of technical terms in this book, and I was constantly just going back and forth trying to figure out what means. But once you figure that out, this book is insane. Like I feel like the second half of the book just flew by. I devoured it so quickly. Um, Honestly, the concept was so interesting. Everything that happens in space, there are like gravity boots, there are these suits that you wear, the fights that happen in space. Like the entire thing was very, very interesting. So, if you grew up watching Star Wars, then I feel like you will completely get this world, get this environment, because it's very similar. The fighting in space, the spaceships, the suits, the different characters. Though initially a little bit slow, ultimately this book was so fast paced that, as I said, I like ate it up. And I just wanted to pick up the second book as soon as I finished this one. Honestly, this was one of the best books that I picked up last month, and I'm so glad that I did. So if you are someone who, as I said, who likes stuff like the Star Wars, or if you like space, fighting in space, sort of space travel, and you're like a sci-fi nerd, then you will love this book. I will just pick it up without a single thought. Be a little patient in the beginning, and you'll enjoy yourself. So now we're going to be talking about the third book in my January wrap up, and that is Nightshade by Autumn Woods. This was such a good book. I ate it up. Like, I think I finished this in two to 3 days. It was so good and exactly what I was craving after reading something like Red Rising. I feel like Red Rising took up a lot of my brain power because there were so many technical terms to understand, so many things happening at the same time, a lot of politics, and it really took a lot of my mind to figure out what exactly was happening. After that, I needed something comforting, something. Sorry, that's my cat. So I needed something comforting, something that is more up my alley, and that's why I picked up this book. This is the first book in the Sorosong University, and it is like a dark academia romantic thriller. So it's a like I feel like it involves a lot of genres. I love dark academia, and that is why I picked this up. And this book did not disappoint at all. It left me feeling so satisfied. The ending was I don't have words for that ending. I am so looking forward to book number two. So this story follows Olivia, who basically gets a scholarship to attend this university called Sorosong, and she essentially goes there because she's trying to get to the bottom of her parents' deaths, which happened right outside that university. And along the way, she meets Alex, and he is the number one suspect's son. And what follows is like a dark and very dangerous mystery, and with bits of forbidden romance. This is again the first book that I'm reading by this author, and I'd heard so much, and I'm so glad I picked this up because this was literally amazing. The romance in this was insane. The enemies to lovers, oh my god, that was so well done. Also, the forced proximity was so filled with tension. I really enjoyed this book. However, I will say one thing, that towards the later half of the book, I would have liked to see much more from both the main protagonists of the book in terms of what they were feeling for each other. I just felt it, their relationship wasn't explored deep enough. It just felt a little bit shallow. However, having said that, everything else was perfect, and I'm still looking forward to book number 2, and I cannot wait to read that one. So the fourth book that I read in the month of January was The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. I know, finally. That one was pending for so long, and since the movie adaptation of that book was coming out, I was like, no better time than right now to pick that book up. And I have to say, I enjoyed it so much. I feel like all books in January were like amazing, great reads. I don't think there was a single book which I didn't find memorable. Coming back to The Housemaid, this is a fast-paced psychological thriller written by Frida McFadden, and it is the first book in the Housemaid series. And I'm so happy I read it. I finished this book in one sitting because it was that addictive. It was like I didn't want to put the book down. I couldn't put the book down. It was a short read, but it was so addictive, and that plot twist in the end, I did not see it coming. So basically, it's about this housemaid called Millie, and she moves into her new employer's home called the Winchester family. It's a husband and wife called Nina and Andrew, and they definitely have some dark secrets. So basically, the story follows the housemaid, which is Millie, as she navigates her new role working for this family. And this thriller was thrillering. I'm not even kidding. I don't read a lot of thrillers, but this one really blew me away. I could not predict that ending at all. It was like that ending had me so shocked. Like, and I'm sure, like, since most of you would have seen the movie by now, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm usually quite good at guessing all these things, but this time I just couldn't. It was really good. If you are looking for a book to get out of a reading slump, I feel like The Housemaid is the perfect pick for you because it makes you want to keep reading and not put it down. I remember while I was reading it, I didn't want to even get up to use the loo because I was so invested in this book. So I feel like this will really help someone in a reading slump. Okay, so the next book that I picked up was Quicksilver by Callie Hart. And oh my god, let me tell you, I was at this point of time dying to read a good romantasy. So this is the first book in the Fae and Alchemy series by Callie Hart, and the second book called Brimstone is out already, and I will be picking that up very soon. This was a 5-star read for me. This was my first ever 5-star of the year, of the month, of the year, and it was amazing. It had everything that I wanted: the enemies to lovers trope, the found family trope, the forced proximity trope. Like, I don't need anything else in a book. This is what does it for me. So basically, this book follows this human thief called Ceres Fane. She finds herself in like a forgotten Fey world, and there she meets this dark and broody kingfisher, and she finds herself in the middle of essentially the Fey wars against vampires, and she has this hidden ability. Like, she's an alchemist, a very rare alchemist, and she's capable of manipulating metal. That is what the premise of this book is. If I tell you more, I feel like I'm giving away a lot of stuff, and I don't want to spoil it for you because you should definitely go read it. All I'm gonna say is Kingfisher is now definitely part of my book boyfriend list. It was so good to read a book like this after so long. It was fast paced, there was so much yearning, there was so much banter, and there was so much tension, and everything was so well done. I feel like what stuck with me the most was the FMC's transformation from just a simple human to the badass version of herself that she becomes. It was amazing. Like, I love books with a good, strong female protagonist, and this book definitely delivered. And after that ending, I am itching to read Brimstone, and I will be doing that very soon. So, the next two books that I will be talking about are part of a series, and they are the King of Sins series, I think it's called, by Anna Huang. Oh my god, I read the first two books in the series called King of Wrath and King of Pride, and I loved it. Honestly, I read the Twisted series by her, and I really enjoyed reading that one. Loved all four books. My favorite was Josh and Jules' book. I think that's book number three. So, book number three is called Twisted Hate, and that was my favorite out of the series, as I said. But I enjoyed the entire series. I also started the Gods of the Game series by her, and I read book one called The Striker. And I did enjoy it, however, I felt like it was too stretched. Like, the story was great, but I feel it could have ended 150 pages earlier. I feel like it was unnecessarily stretched, and I mean, it sort of put me off her books for some time. That's why I haven't picked up Defender yet. But I've heard great things about the Defender, and I will be picking that up very, very soon. And third book also in that series will be coming out this year, so I want to be caught up on that before it comes out. But this month I picked up her series called the King of Sin series, and as I said, I read book one, book two. I loved book one. Book one was just my type of a read. I think these are like softer dark romances, and book one follows the story of called King of Wrath follows the story of Dante and Vivian, billionaire. He is the CEO of this luxury goods conglomerate, and he's forced into a marriage with Vivian Lau. She is the daughter of a jewelry tycoon, and she's come from new money, and he has like old money. Grandfather brought him up, and he's all about the family business and all about like sort of bringing it forward. And her father sort of tricks him into getting engaged to her and blackmails him into getting engaged to her. So it's sort of like an enemies to lovers with forced proximity, and honestly, I ate it up. It was so good, so good. The tension in that book was amazing. It was perfect. Like, I feel like the length was perfect, the plot was perfect, the writing was perfect, the characters were perfect, everything was on point. I really enjoyed myself while reading that book. And as I said, it's like a more softer dark romance. So for all of you who are sort of waiting to dip your toes into dark romance, I feel like that is a good series to start off with. Even the Twisted series is a good series to start off with because it's not so intense and heavy, but it's sort of like just sort of dips your feet into that genre, and you're able to figure out whether that is something you'd like to read or no. Uh, Honestly, this series sort of renewed my faith in Anna Huang, and I immediately had to pick up book number two, and I loved that one as well. Not as much as King of Wrath, however, but I enjoyed King of Pride. It was also great, the writing was great. I just felt like I enjoyed the characters in King of Wrath much more than I did King of Pride. King of Pride follows Isabella and Kai. Uh, Very similar stories. Like, these are all billionaire romances. So he's a billionaire, and she is like this upcoming author. She's writing her first debut novel, and how those two sort of meet and how they connect. And again, it's like a forbidden romance because he basically is part of this elusive Valhalla club, and it's a very exclusive club, and it's not easy to get membership, and he's part of this, and she sort of works there as a bartender. And obviously, so you're not allowed to fraternize with the staff, and they sort of develop a relationship, again, which is forbidden, and that's how the story goes. I don't want to spoil it for you, so if you feel like that is something you're interested in, you should pick it up. I enjoyed myself reading both these books, and I am very excited to continue this series. I also did pick up the third book next month, but we'll talk about this. We'll talk about that in our February wrap up. So yes, this concludes my wrap up. These are all the books that I loved reading in January, and as I said, I was very happy with my picks. The TBR jar did me good. I ended up picking great books. I enjoyed reading everything in January. Honestly, I wasn't disappointed with even one single book, so I call that a win. I unfortunately wasn't able to finish all the books on my TBR, are still left, and I think I'm going to carry those forward and try to finish them in the coming months. But I'm still very happy that I did accomplish reading like 7 books. It was a great time, it was a great month, and I'm really looking forward to what's in store for Feb. So this is it for this video. I hope you guys had a good time. I hope you guys found something exciting to pick up to read. If you did, please give this video a like and do subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you for my next one. Bye.